Okay, let's get started. So I have chosen this particular shape of canvas for the painting that we're going to be doing the moon on. You have a choice. You can use this shape if you'd like, whatever it is that you feel most comfortable with. So in this case, we're going to start with this canvas. After you get it, all the paper taken off, what we're going to do, this is what you'll end up with. This is a copper background, and what I have done to create that copper background is basically just used metallic spray paint. This particular brand is very good, and you can find it at Home Depot. It's not very expensive, and just make sure that you thoroughly cover your canvas. You can choose whatever color you like. You could do it a whole dark blue, and then you can add a few stars. You can choose any color that you happen to be drawn to. When you're spray painting, go this way across the canvas all the way, and then go this way across the canvas. Make sure all your edges are covered. If you do it in a nice warm area, it'll dry so fast and it'll be ready to go in a matter of minutes. Okay, now that we've got our canvas covered with our copper paint, in this case, we're going to choose the size of the moon. Now, placement on the canvas is very important. With composition and design, as a basic rule, you do not put anything in the center of your canvas. You always want to go to the right or the left. In this case, I like the right side. Take your pencil, draw around the edge. Voila! Okay, that's the beginning. Okay, on second thought, I thought that this particular moon size was too small for the canvas. So I did decide to take the plate and make a larger moon. We're going to be making a little bit of misty aura around the moon. The kind of glow that you have when you're looking at the moon. There'll be a glowy mist. Okay, so I have my palette tray all set out the way I would, all ready to go to start painting. So I'm going to take a flat brush, not very long. I'm going to start with that. Take your palette knife. In this case, I'm thinking possibly a little bit of a bluish, purple, very light, misty color. So I'm going to take a little dab of the dioxide purple, put it here in the middle of the palette, a little bit of ultramarine, put that in there, mix it together, so you get kind of a purplish blue. And as I go along, I'll see if I like this color or not and add a little bit as I go. So now, take and wipe off our palette knife. Make sure it's clean before we go into the white, okay? Basically, we're going to take a lot of the white, lay it here, and just take a dab of this bluish purple and add it until we get to something we like. Maybe just a little darker. Okay, now it's all mixed up. Okay, so we have this flat brush. We're going to get a little bit of paint thinner on there. Dab it on there so you don't need a lot, so a little bit of it comes out. Some of your dryer, which we've placed on the palette. Okay, so now we're going to take this, we're going to fill up our brush, and we're basically just going to go around the moon with the brush, and we don't have to be too careful about the inside of it. And basically just we're going to go around and put this color all the way around. Then we're going to go back and we're going to blend it out. Now because you're using oil paint, this paint is going to stay wet for quite a while, so you're not going to have to worry about being super fast getting in there and blending like you would if you were using an acrylic paint. Now the closer that you are to the actual part where you're going to start your moon, you're going to want to be, you know, a pretty a solid color right there around the edge. So now that you've just gone and just basically put that down, you're going to try to come in and put your line around your moon a little more thickly. You can always balance your brush on your canvas to give you a little more steady as you're trying to make your circle. Put your little pinky on your canvas. All right. Now I'm just basically kind of going to scrub a little bit of the edge here, kind of blend it together with this brush, so that as we go out, we're just going to take the paint we've already put there and just kind of blend it out. As I'm doing this here, I'm going to kind of scrub the canvas and blend this color that we've laid down out. And it's kind of a rough, heavy-handed, and the more you go out, the thinner the paint is. You can see it's getting much thinner, giving more of a misty effect. What we're going to do is, this is just the beginning stages of, I'm kind of scrubbing the canvas with it, trying to thin this out, thin it out and make it more misty-like. Now as you see, I tapped my canvas there and put a little blue way far out there. Well, that is no problem. You just take a little brush here, any little brush, dip it into your paint thinner. Okay, tap it off, just go like that. Take your paper towel, wipe it off. Clean it up a little more. And there you go, it is gone. Now, we're going to take a soft brush here. I happen to particularly like these flat, soft brushes. We're going to use this next, and as we go along, if we need to blend it out more, we'll get even more blending brushes. But we're going to start with this. Once again, we're going to take that and scrub the edges. And then I'm going to go back and forth with a little X-like effect, so that I can bring some of that out and make it not so confined on the edges. Scrub a little bit and blend it out. Scrub a little bit. We just keep doing this until we get the effect we would like around the edge. See how it's just becoming almost just like a cloud of just really soft halo. This is how you create the moon's halo. See how as it's getting blended out, you're seeing this line here that's getting closer to the moon, that's very thick. You want to leave that as much as possible. Just get to the edges. Just blend those outside edges. We want to make the edges so soft out here and then much darker around the moon. Okay, so as you can see, this is not the same canvas that I just used a minute ago. For the sake of the video, we pre-prepared this particular canvas so that we could move on. The other one will take hours to dry. The lighter the color, the longer it takes to dry. You can set it out in the sun and it will dry faster, but we're looking at probably at least tomorrow before you can move on and make sure that your next step is going to flow properly. So when you're doing this at home, you want to make sure that you let your paint dry. So that's why we're using this different canvas. We needed the area, the glow and the halo to be dry, so when we put our edge of the moon here, we're not putting it in and losing the nice bright edge. So this particular time, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're just going to be putting the basic shadow and light of the moon onto this canvas area. Now, when you're creating a moon, you can go to the internet and find reference material of different moons that you might like. So we have some examples here we're going to show you, and this is a choice. This was just right off the internet. This one here, you have a lot of depth and darks and lights in this particular one. As you see here, this one is very light. You have very little shadows, very little detail on this. And the same thing with this. You have a little more detail around the edges, but less in the center. So these are choices that is up to you as the artist and the creator of the piece to decide what it is that you want to bring out in this piece. Are you going to want to have a little more depth and detail, or to keep it soft and moody and mysterious? This area in the back, the reason we've set this up before is so that we can attach our reference material so that it makes it easy for us to look here, and you do not have to be exact. You want to get the feeling of it. It isn't like you have to get every little nook and cranny. The idea is the feeling of the moon that you're trying to create. So let's put these up on our reference material wall and start the next part of the lesson. So next we're going to do is I have marked on my little moon just a little few areas where I might want to put some darker shadows. I'm going to place them down first and then build onto that. So once again, I'm going to start with just this little flat brush because I'm going to try to cover the larger areas of my darkness in my moon. See, as I'm pointing up to the reference material here. These areas, we're going to create something of this effect here, so we're going to lay those darker areas down first. Okay, so I have my brush here, and I have my palette knife, and I'm going to take a little bit of Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray, just a touch. Put it here. All right. Take my paper towel, wipe my palette knife off, clean it. Take some white. We're going to add that to the Payne's Gray. Now, Payne's Gray is a lighter color of black that has blue in it. So it's a bluish, it'll make a bluish gray color. So as we go, we're going to just, what you can do is you can mix up this Payne's Gray and white together and put it into different shades of gray, depending on how dark and how much contrast you want on your moon. Okay, so we're going to just make a little bit. We're going to do 2 little piles. Probably need a little more than what I started with. Clean your knife so you don't get your white all dirty. So, okay, now you can see that I've made 2 different shades of gray. A little darker, a little lighter. Okay. This will add depth to your moon. And so we want to just mix it up real good. Okay. And then clean your palette. Right. And we're going to also possibly be using this small little flat head brush. Okay. And so to start with, I'm going to put my larger flat brush into the darker hue of gray, darker shade of gray, and get a little bit of dryer in there. Okay, a little drier, so make it dry a little faster because we don't want to have to wait weeks to complete our painting. So we're going to add a little bit of this in there. And then I'm just going to look at my reference material and just basically kind of feel the shape and the space of the dark color here. Now what happens with the dryer is that it kind of makes your paint a little bit thinner and a little soupier, so it's not quite as thick and it becomes a little translucent. So you have to, it's not as opaque, so you have to kind of add a little more paint to it and just kind of give yourself, just, you know, be casual about it. Just look at your reference material and put a little dark color. All right, remembering that your shape of your moon is round, so you want to have an interesting shades of darks and lights in here. So there we go. We're just going to put, and I might not want as much detail in my moon as there is on the reference material. So that is totally up to me. And we're gonna just kind of go around this area and add this dark. And if we don't feel that it's dark enough, we can always add more dark to it. So as we go on the edges. So let's just continue on with this little bit of shadow that we're laying in here. We're just adding a little shadow. Okay, now we're gonna just kind of lighten it up. We can just wipe our paintbrush off, get most of the color out, because we're just gonna use another little lighter gray and just kind of put it a little bit around the edges of it, you know, just here and there, kind of to add some depth. And then what we'll do is we'll go in and blend it out. And it doesn't have to be all in the same area. We can put some up to the dark gray, and then we might just add a little areas of lighter shadows, because that gives you more depth. Because once you put the white on here and blend it out, you're going to get a lot more depth on your moon using more shades. So just going to go in here, and then I'm going to show you how to blend this out. So I'm going to try to find a similar size brush, this long one here a little bit, and I'm going to soften these edges here. Just soften them up a little bit, blend them together so that they don't have so much of a difference in the lines. Okay, and I'm just going to soften. I'm kind of tapping the top because it's such a small area. I'm just tapping it to kind of blend it out a little bit. The movement, taking a little bit of the paint off at the same time, and just tapping it a little bit to soften those edges up. Okay, because once I go in and put the white down, I may decide to add more darkness or whatever, but I just want the edges to kind of be blended out a little bit. It happens to be a little bit of the type of style of painting that I do, rather than edge to edge thickness. Some oil painters just have very sharp edges on their work, and I happen to blend my work a lot. So when you'll see my work, I'm blending a lot of things. It's going to have a lot of softer edges. So And we're not worrying about getting, because we can put white over and many, many layers. So we're just putting a nice little effects here, blending it out. Okay, so blend those edges out. I put a lot of layers of paint on my moons because the more layers you put on, the more depth you have, the more pop, and the more contrast you have on your piece. So if you want your moon to stand out like it's just glowing right there in your house, right on your canvas, then you're going to have to spend the time and put many more layers of highlight. Highlight on top of highlight on top of highlight. So as we go, there we go, we're just gonna, and we can define this and use a liner brush and define it up and make it really more sharpness, but right now we're just looking for a soft edge. Okay, we're almost to the point where we can add our white onto our moon. Okay, so, and it's okay to leave some really dark spots because we're probably going to go back and put some in there anyway. So, but just get a little bit of there. Because I kind of like the soft effects of the moon. Alright, time to clean our brush again, and then we're going to go in with our white. Okay, so I'm letting that brush dry a little bit, let the pink thinner evaporate out of the brush. I'm going to use a flat angle brush here, and this will offer the edge of control that I want here around the edges as I'm placing the white paint onto the canvas. So I'm going to get a little more white on my palette because I've been mixing a lot of colors with white. So we're going to add some white to the palette. Now, like I was telling you, that the white, all the light colors, the lighter they are, the longer they take to dry. So as you're adding layer after layer onto your moon, and in between you have to let them dry, but each layer. So this is going to be basically straight white with dryer in it. So I'm going to take a little bit of my dryer, put it on my palette over here, scoop some nice area of white, mix it all up with the dryer. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of pull my color off the palette by my angle brush here. See, so I have a nice amount of paint on the edge of my brush. Now, here we go. I'm going to place my little pinky onto the canvas. Hold on to it here. We're going to try to get a nice edge getting up there without, I'm taking my time about it because we want to have a nice edge, so I'm just going to go right up. I can always come in and add more. Then I'll just go in here, try to get a little bit of that paint off. Okay, so this is the finer part where you're going to just want to be really careful with the edge of the moon, bringing it out, trying to keep your lines steady. Okay. And then we're just going to go in here with a little bit of white. Then we're going to blend it all out, and then we're going to add more and more and more layers and layers and layers on here. Okay, now that we have filled in all the cover area with the white, we're going to start blending that all together now. Okay, so start from your edge out, softly touch your canvas with your soft brush, your soft, small blending brush. Okay, we're just going to softly blend it together. working your way in on the canvas. Work it in. Just soften the edges. Soften. Since this is just the first layer of white, and as you go along, it's amazing that white on top of white just gets lighter and lighter and gives you a lot more contrast. Your dark that you have here really isn't all that dark, but it will start looking darker and darker as you go along. Okay, so we're just going to blend that in. Because we are wanting to make it a round shape, we want to keep that feel also as we're blending and as we're adding our colors and our shapes on top of the moon. So just little light brush strokes, light all the way around. Just keep going, blend it in. I put a fair amount of white on top of the white, and so we want to just be soft so we don't end up losing all of our dark color in here. And of course that is going to make the drying time a lot longer. So once we get this all blended in, we're going to have to wait for it to dry for the next step. So that will be on the next lesson. Okay, so now we've got almost everything blended here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry. It may take days, depending on how warm a climate you're in. Now, we've added the dryer to speed up the drying process in the paint, but there are a few things you can do. Put the painting in the sun. Make sure you don't have any animals or any leaves or any thing that could possibly fall on it, but you can put it out either on a table or something in an area of your yard and get that direct sunlight on it. It will not hurt the canvas, will not hurt the paint. You can do that. You can also put a really strong light on it or a heater on it and let it dry. Stick it in a closet where you can put some heavy-duty heat on it. That will help the speeding up of the drying if you are wanting to paint and don't want to wait. So those are some of the tips you might try. Okay, so we will see you at the next lesson.